Red Goblin #2, and I was really shocked at how much I enjoyed the first issue. It wasn't perfect, but I went into it pretty much symbioted out, goblined out, not wanting to say Normie all the time. I like Normie, but it kind of gets annoying having to say that name over and over. So there was a lot stacked against it. But I ended up actually enjoying it more than I thought, and I always enjoy when that happens. So let's hope that the trend continues with this. Red Goblin #2, written by Alex Paknadal, art by Jan Balzaduea, colors by David Coryell, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. You get a lot of a repeat of the recap from last issue, and then kind of end with, as we go forward, now they face their first test, because they're talking about Rascal the symbiote and Old Normie, and they're going to face their first test, a resurgent Goblin Nation under the command of a resurrected Phil Urich, a.k.a. the Goblin King, has kidnapped Norman. And I said I was symbioted out, goblined out, all that stuff going down. But we're heading to the summer of symbiotes, and I kind of like this interaction between Rascal and Normie. Still hate saying Normie, but I also like having Norman in this book as well, continuing his deal. But instead of just waxing poetic and really trying to shove it down your throat like Christopher Cantwell was doing in that Gold Goblin book, this actually shows a sin of the past really coming back at Norman, because Phil Urich is pissed. He is upset at the Red Goblin. He's upset at Norman. He ends up having Norman here in the sewers, where I would never want to get my blood drawn in the sewers. I don't like needles, so I don't like getting my blood drawn any other way anyway. And I do have a blood test coming up that I have to take to check out some things. And with that, if they tell me that I have to do it in the sewer, I'm out. I'm not doing that. That's nonsense. But you end up having Phil. He's drawing too much blood from Norman. Norman's having some problems. But if you aren't familiar with the connection that Phil Urich has with Norman and the Red Goblin symbiote, all this stuff going down, you do get a pretty nice little recap. And Alex Paknadal gives it to you as a way Phil Urich's pissed and he's going to yell about everything. It's a little bit forced, but it's not so forced. I've read so many forced, hey, let's kind of throw this in, whatever. I kind of do think that Phil would be so mad that he'd be yelling that, even at this point where Norman's had so much blood drawn from him that he's delirious. So I don't know exactly what is going on with him and what he hears, but you get the idea that Phil Urich was killed by Norman and the symbiote as well. He ended up dying, but with the Goblin serum, he didn't quite die. He's actually a rotting body at one, all that. And it does seem horrific. He says, just imagine that you're alive, but your body is just rotting around you. It's awful. And now he has gotten the Goblin Nation. They're rising again. He's ready to take it to the streets. He's ready to go. And I thought, and it still is the idea that Norman is kind of bait. He does say that. He wants the symbiote to show up, but he also does want Norman's blood. So it wasn't just, okay, we're going to grab Norman and kidnap him and, wait for this. But they are expecting, Red Goblin to show up. And we saw there was a bit of miscommunication in a deal where Norman is really trying to do the right thing and be good. You have Phil Urich, who just thinks, oh, this was all Norman's deal, when his guys from this new Goblin Nation came back and did that little sketch of the Red Goblin. It's like, it was you. You had your crazy thing come after me. I know it was you. I'm not going to listen to anything else. He whaps him. Norman is having some big problems here. He's very weak. Luckily, he gets his strength back in a little bit. But while all that's going on down in the sewers, you then go up and see the Osborne kids, Stanley and Normie, being taken to school by Liz. She kind of goes with that play of, listen, we're a highfalutin family. We have to keep up appearances. The police are looking into Pop Pop. They'll find them, let them do their thing, but you guys go to school and try to work the deal. Work it, girl, because we are a higher up family and we have appearances to keep. It's kind of a really lame deal of when you have Norman disappear in the sewers. And so when Normie's listening to this, he's kind of mad about it, but he has learned his lesson from last issue. And he said, I got caught without the symbiote. That's not going to happen again. I don't know. It's a great thing to bring the symbiote to school. Like, it's not bring your symbiote to school day. That's a day that's never going to happen. You're never going to have that. Plus, it kind of goes with that whole deal of weapons in school and whatnot. I actually think you're supposed to feel a little uncomfortable about this. But Normie's like, all right, they go out. Everybody's yelling, hey, Normie, what up? Hey, Stanley, what's up with your grandfather? They're all yelling and whatever. And you go, and it's very quick progression here where you go into the school and suddenly Norman or Normie is being bullied. You have kids that are just kicking the crap out of him in the what's it called, in the bathroom, and the symbiote wants to come out. He's no, and then suddenly a knight in shining armor shows up. This other new kid shows up and wallops the bully. There's the other bully boys. You know, you always end up having the other bully boys around there. And they're, hey, what's up, kid? What's going on? You're dead. He's like, yeah, well, you're the one on the ground. Hey. And he's kind of cool. You like this kid right away. But he does offer Normie some advice. And the advice is, get some balls and fight back. You're going to have to do that at some point. You can't just let them do this or they're just going to keep doing it. I like Normie says, what are you, the bully whisperer? Thought that was funny. And he's like, no, I grew up in an orphanage with a lot of jerks like that. So trust me, they're like sharks. They smell blood in the water. This seems to be the epiphany that Normie has. Everybody's having epiphanies here. He's like, okay, blood in the water. You go back down to Norman. Goblin Nation and Phil Urich are doing nonsense. I mean, pretty much they're going to use Norman's blood as a PED, and now we're going to go for it. We're going to now hit 70 home runs, right? Everybody's going to hit the homers. And yeah, they're all juiced up with Goblin blood, Norman blood, and they're all freaking out. Norman's desperately trying to tell them, don't do this. This is not what you want. I think it's what they want. I mean, whatever would happen, Norman is scared that maybe they're going to go off and do some really bad things with this. But if he's concerned of, oh my God, like that guy's going to go insane, that guy's going to drop dead, screw it. These guys deserve it. But you do see Goblin Nation just going nuts. They're ripping their clothes off. It looks like Burning Man suddenly down in the sewer. But also Phil Urich has pretty much juice. He's the Jose Canseco now of this whole deal. He's huge. He's like, oh, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. And I told you we'd be ready for your Red Assassin, because they're still waiting for the Red Goblin to come down. And this is how they're thinking they're going to defeat him, by juicing up on Norman blood. So we go back to Normie and Rascal. And the big play is that, you would guess this, Normie does not think that the police are going to be able to cover all the ground of the sewers. They're not even going to know where to look. And old Pop-Up, he might die. So what are we going to do? Well, Normie asks Rascal, and I do like this because you're still getting that learning curve where Normie doesn't know exactly everything about Rascal and vice versa. And he says, hey, Rascal, can you smell, other goblins? Can you end up smelling the things? Because he was the Red Goblin. And is there a codex? Can you smell? Yeah, he can. So he's like, Rascal, find? He's like, yeah. But when we get down there, and if there's trouble, whatnot, you can't cause a big stir. Because when we do this, then my grandfather, he's going to figure this out. He's going to figure out the whole play. So just be chill. Don't get flip out and listen to me. You got to follow orders, and boom, they're together. Boom, Red Goblin. Pretty cool looking as he goes down into the sewers. As that goes on, Phil Urich, still talking trash and killing flies, ends up realizing, yep, he's coming. Red Goblin is coming. We're ready for him. This is going to be great. Oh no, a bunch of rats. There is this is my ultimate nightmare. I hate rats. I ended up as a kid growing up in a pretty bad area, and there was tons of rats, and they freaked me out. I mean, until the day. And I ended up at points where even little mice, I will jump on furniture and scream. I just can't take it, let alone having a tsunami or a toonami of rats come and just go over you. You do end up seeing Phil is upset about this, but this is a distraction so that Normie and Rascal can come in and start the attack. The problem is that Phil Urich is ready. He has been planning for this to happen. And he is pissed. I mean, he is really pissed and pretty much clamps onto the neck of the symbiote, slams him into the wall, and is just carrying him around like a rag doll. So it looks like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because you end up having the symbiote kind of dissipating off of Normie. You're going to end up, Norman's going to see this, but thank God he's able to throw Phil off and run over to Norman. Now, Norman is still delirious and thinks it's Spider-Man, and also Phil Urich, he's not done. Now, luckily, Normie and Rascal is able to unclamp the bindings that are keeping Norman down. Says, you get out of here, I'll fight Phil Urich. They fight, but you get a big sonic blast from Phil Urich. And this really is hurting Rascal. We know it would. The whole Sonic deal with symbiotes. And you do end up being reminded again, like, this is a little kid. This is just Normie there. He's upset. At one point, he even gets a knife through his hand. I mean, all these things going on. He just wants to go home to his mom. But he's there to save his grandfather. And luckily, Norman is also there to save him, whether he knows it or not, that this is his grandson. But he comes. He's gotten his strength back and wallops Phil. I mean, wallops him. And now I want to know the workout routine of Norman. Holy moly. He just levels him, and him and the symbiote start running away. You end up having Normie and Rascal get him. He still thinks it's Spider-Man, so you end up having Normie smart enough to pretend that, okay, sir, let's go. I'm going to get you out of here. I got to take you to a hospital. And they go running down one of the sewer lines, and out comes one of the Goblin Nation guys that we ended up seeing last issue. It's the guy with the mohawk who just annoys the heck out of me, but he's supposed to. And he's like, yeah, you think that the Goblin King would end up just having that as our full plan? No, we had a backup plan, and you just walked right into it. Pretty much it is the whole Goblin Nation is waiting, and Normie, Rascal, and Norman, they're kind of in a bit of a narrow space in this point. They're in this tunnel deal, and there's no real where to run or maneuver, and they're going to end up getting full-out attack from the Goblin Nation. But when this ends, you end up having this sus guy say, you're looking at the all-new, all-different Goblin Nation. I'm like, oh, so you're going to suck. Is that what we got here? Oh, my goodness. And that's how it ends. And, yeah, you end up where, again, through this whole thing, Normie is trying to, keep Rascal under control. But what's going to happen here? And even thinks, I think I might have to let Rascal go full ham here. And how's that going to play? Is Rascal going to leap off of Normie and go attack on his own, and then would leave Norman seeing that it's Normie? Again, if this ends up being the case and happening, I don't think it's that crazy a thing, but he wants to keep that on the down low. Yeah, I like this. I actually did still like it. I didn't like it as much as I liked the first issue, but I still had fun with it. And I still really like Normie and Rascal. I like that interaction. I like seeing, little Normie, a little kid, trying to figure out on his own, almost like Greatest American Hero-esque, trying to figure out what the symbiote does, how to keep him under control without the user manual and all by himself, because he has nobody to really talk about. Dylan's MIA. And he can't go to Norman. See, that's where, if you're going to continue this that's where I think it is a smart move for Norman to find out and work the angle of let's be superheroes together. And hey, Gold Goblin and Red Goblin hitting it like a Batman and Robin, I'm all for it. That'd be really cool. So I want to see where it ends up and how this all, goes. But at the moment, they're going to have to take down the all-new, all-different Goblin Nation. Oh, no. But we'll see. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I'm still into it, though. I still really am, and I did enjoy it. Sometimes the art got a little wonky, and like I said, there's some moments that just kind of seemed a little forced, but I still enjoyed it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, enable the notifications, and let me know what you thought about this issue in the comments below.
You are all weirdos.